Today is Memorial Day, and rather than honoring American servicemen, men and women who have chosen, largely most of them voluntarily, to serve in foreign wars that I believe generally were not defensive in nature, I've decided instead to honor the victims of those wars in various countries by citing a list of all the casualties, both civilian and military, that we've inflicted on other countries in the last 60 years. In Afghanistan, we've slaughtered over between 1 and 1.8 million deaths from the Soviet conflict that we were a part of. We funded that war, as well as 100,000 people that we've killed now in our own direct conflict in Afghanistan. In Angola, the estimates are between 300,000 and 750,000 dead, result of American responsibility. In Chad, we're responsible for more than 40,000 deaths and 200,000 people being tortured. In Chile, we're responsible for over 3,000 deaths. In China, we're responsible, I believe, largely as a part of the Korean War for more than 900,000 dead Chinese. In Colombia, we're responsible for more than 67,000 dead people in Colombia. In Cuba, the estimates are between 2,000 and 4,000 dead people. In Zaire, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, whatever it's called now, we're responsible for more than 3 million deaths in that country. In the Dominican Republic, we're responsible for more than 3,000 deaths. In East Timor, we're responsible for about 200,000 deaths. And keep in mind, that's a country that only has 700,000 people in it. So, we wiped out almost a third of the population there. El Salvador, 75,000 deaths in El Salvador attributed to American military activity. Grenada, 277 deaths in Grenada. Guatemala, 29,000 casualties in Guatemala, the result of American military action. In Haiti, between 30,000 and 100,000 people have died as a result of American military action. In Honduras, more than 400 people have died as a result of the American military. In Hungary, 3,000 people have been killed by American military activity. In Indonesia, between 500,000 and 3 million people have died as a result of American militarism. In Iran, more than 262,000 people were killed in a war largely funded by America and run by Saddam Hussein, who was our very great ally until suddenly he was not. So that was mostly our money and weapons used to kill 260,000 Iranians. It's no wonder people in Iran aren't a big fan of us. Plus, we did the coup in that country as well. In Iraq, over 2 million people have been killed. That's a rather low estimate. It's probably much higher than that, including over 560,000 children as a result of sanctions. In Palestine, the estimates are between 100,000 and 200,000 people killed, generally by Israelis, but again with American money. That was all American tax dollars funding and American weaponry as well. In Korea, the estimates are that we killed more than 3 million people, over half of which were civilians in the conflict in Korea. In Nepal, we're responsible for between 8,000 and 12,000 deaths. In Nicaragua, we're responsible for approximately 25,000 deaths. In Pakistan, which is a country I don't think we've ever officially declared war on, we're responsible for between 1.5 and 3 million deaths. Panama, we're responsible for between 500 and 4,000 deaths. In Sudan, we're likely responsible for more than 2 million deaths. In Yugoslavia, we're responsible for more than 107,000 deaths in the former nation of Yugoslavia, when you add up all the casualties in Bosnia and etc., Serbia. And that's not even including Operation Condor, wherein we murdered several million people in South America, in Argentina, Brazil. I mentioned some of the South American countries, but Bolivia. I mean, there's a huge amount of casualties. We don't really know how many people died there as a result of coups and meddling with the governments there and rigging elections and installing ruthless dictators like Pinochet, etc. And then, of course, our number one stat between Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, it's likely that 7.8 million people lost their lives there during the conflict in Vietnam. So, and that's those people, not including our own troops. And that's not even number one, actually, because number one is the estimates where there were between 50 and 60 million people in the United States while we were colonizing the country at the beginning of, during the era known as Manifest Destiny. So, so overall, globally in the last 60 years, you're looking at 20 million casualties as a direct result of American militarism. And you can also add probably about 60 million indigenous people massacred during the colonization of the United States. So 80 million dead people. That's not including all the casualties from World War II, where we unnecessarily dropped nuclear bombs on two very highly populated regions of Japan. Or, of course, the incredible genocide that we perpetrated in Germany during World War II, firebombing Dresden and some other things. Were just unspeakable acts that American militarism has done. So, probably over 100 million people, all told, dead as a direct result of American militarism. So, thank you for your service.